Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak a few lines about the past 3 days conference, national conference that is on mental health and well-being. So we have heard so many good points from this conference. So I just wanted to add 1 or 2 points, since this mental health issues has becoming very important aspect in the school education system. So policy makers or the government can think of inclusion of this curriculum into the pre-service teacher education, which I have already spoken in earlier sessions also. And also we can think of giving the certificate course like career guidance and counseling course are available here in NCERT. So for all the teachers, even if it is online or offline, so it should be made compulsory for the teachers. Then I think there will be some changes which will come into our school education system. So that's all from my side. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, all of us. As I said yesterday, this national conference is on mental health is more like a national mental health awareness festival. And again, as I said, we are in fantastic times of raising the levels and raising the awareness about mental health. As of me, with the experience, my wisdom tells me that every school needs not just teacher counselors, but also needs counseling psychologists for the benefit of teachers, for the benefit of administration, and for the benefit of students, because teachers are busy and whatever courses they are taking up, of course, it's going to be very useful for them towards their classroom dynamics and their own personal well-being, mental health well-being, and also in various areas of counseling children towards career. But when it comes to very sensitive matters of the students, it is imperative that every school be provided with a counseling psychologist. This is my appeal and this is my request, and I think this is a very imminent requirement for each and every school. Thank you, Neri, NCERT, Shillong, for giving me this opportunity to place my recommendation. Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Shashi Ma'am had rightfully mentioned that we are living indeed in a fantastic time where we are getting this opportunity to discuss and talk about mental health and well-being. At the same time, I think we are a storyteller. The way we have seen the narratives of mental health issues that we have been witnessing over the last 3 days, I think each one of us, we have within us a storyteller. We want to share things, right? We and while we're coming to Delhi, we have seen many things. We come here, we meet somebody, and we narrate that incident. Now, stories are an integral part of our life. Even in our language, since I'm from the language background, I always harp on storytelling and the importance of storytelling. When it comes to mental health the issue at hand, the topic at hand, why can't we have maybe supplementary readers in our classroom where we could address these issues through stories, real stories which actually make these mental health issues a very commonplace, a very commonplace idea and without stigmatizing. Maybe we could have certain stories which could highlight that it is okay to be not okay, so that the acceptance is more and the stigma, the stereotypes are lessened, and gradually maybe there'll be more culture and we raise the culture of conversation. So I believe that maybe even in our textbooks, if we could include certain stories where there are characters suffering from these issues and they are how they are dealt with in a classroom, outside the classroom, within the family, these can be brought into light in a way that it is very, very common, generalized, and without any stigma. So this is my viewpoint. Maybe we could have these stories as part of the textbooks or as supplementary readers. Now, this is something, another collateral and an ancillary aspect that I would like to just mention. It is not directly related to our discussion, but when we talk of, we have been harping on how a happy teacher results in a happy classroom, and in the same way, it results in a happy student. When we talk of happiness, what do we actually mean by happiness? What is happy? Now, if we look at the Western philosophical understanding of happiness, we begin with the Epicurean philosophy, which talks about happiness as being happiness, getting what you desire at the same time, restrained. Then we move on to the Hellenistic idea, where you have this whole idea of eudaimonia, which Aristotle talks about. Happiness. Eudaimonia is again a celebration of what you desire. Again, it's a very kind of it has a connection to well-being. And then there's also, if we move further to what Freud says. So Freudian idea relates to the pleasure principle, which is related to ego, superego. So we have to see what actually happiness means to us. And also, without discounting the fact that we as human beings are capable of various kinds of emotions. So without discounting the sadness, so the sad, angry, other emotions are equally important. So we need to address the issue of what exactly is happiness. Like this could be a little deep. Maybe we could have another set of conversations around it. But yes, addressing what is happiness. So thank you.
I would just like to add to what you have just said. When we talk about happiness, we are actually talking more in the sense of well-being, a sense of well-being, a sense of feeling that all is okay with life and things are within control and that you are contented with things which are there. Okay, so yes, we are not really talking about happiness in the context of just pleasure and just acquisition and owning things, which is taken to be happiness by a lot of people. We are not talking about that. It is more in the context of uh, emotional well-being. But that is one thing. The other thing is that he said, which is very important. It is an important part of mental health to acknowledge all emotions. It's not that a never feel sad is also not mentally happy, let me tell you. It is not possible to always be just happy. You cannot always be happy. You need to have the appropriate emotion for emotion is very contextual. So being happy, irrespective of the context, might just point out to you being mentally unhealthy actually. So if we are talking about mental well-being and mental health, we need to understand that it is about appropriateness of your feelings and accepting your feelings. So definitely what you are saying, we could do that, and it's a very, very good idea. We could also really uh, think of some characters in our folklores, in our mythology, who had some flaw and who achieved things. So that could also be one way of like let people sensitizing people to different kinds of problems and illnesses that people suffer from. Um, You can write down and then it will take some time.
Most honorable dignitaries on the stage and Dr. Roy sir and my colleague participants. The last 3 days we had a wonderful journey on empowering teachers on mental health and well-being. We have come across different real experience and different theories which we can practice in our school. I just would like to add some of my experience. In the last 32 years, I was in the field of education, that is as a teacher, then as an administrator in the vice principal cadre, and then finally in the principal cadre. I could observe that after the COVID situation, especially I am from Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya, Maflang East Khasi Hill district, a residential setup, whatever the context, most of us or most of the lecturers or resource persons as explained is in the day schools. And it is my humble request that some addition for those who are in the residential setup like JNV, where the classes and the residential setup is in the same compound itself. A lot of mental stress is there for the teaching staff as well as because of the restrictions and other things. Children are also facing some mental health problems. Especially this was in an alarming situation it is reached when after the COVID situation. Those 2 years, almost 2 years, the children were there with without taking care and they are at home and mostly from the area. Our children are from the rural background and parents are mostly or these children are the first learners or the parents are not educated and there we face a lot of difficulties. Okay, nice. It's my humble request that some more things can be added from the residential setup background also. Thank you.
Good evening to all the senior officials, academicians, and teachers present. On behalf of the Manodarpan Cell NCERT, I take this opportunity to thank each one of you for taking time to attend and participate in the 3-day conference. The conference aim was to step towards empowering one of the most important stakeholders of the school system, our teachers. I request our esteemed Joint Director NCERT, Professor Sridhar Srivastavji, to please give the opening address.
Honorable Additional Secretary, School Education and Literacy, Madam Alice Changson ji, Dean Academic from NCERT, Professor Anjum Sibia ji, Head Department of Psychological Foundation in Education, Professor Mishra ji, or other colleagues from the department, Dean Research present here, and the delegates and participants to this 3 days conference titled Empowering Teachers for Promoting Mental Health and Well-being in Schools, and all presents here. You see, today we are at the end of this 3 days conference. The importance of the topic, sorry, I am missing my colleagues from NERI, Principal NERI, and the most important part is that we are holding this conference in the blended mode, and my NERI colleagues, principal and deans and senior faculty from there, they have come quite ahead in taking this initiative, and they have conducted a conference which is important for the whole country, I would say, mainly on many accounts. First is that the national education policy has stressed upon mental health and well-being of the children, and in a way, the school as a learning space has to be very, very apt and supportive to children in their learning, in their changes in the phase of life. For example, if they are moving from one stage to other stages, the kind of pedagogy that they are confronting with, and more importantly, the kind of changes they are witnessing for themselves, physically, mentally. So we have to be very much responsive to them. The school system has to be very responsive to that. We know that we are living in an age where digital literacy, digital life, digital everything is with us, and that is a reality. But the human being with its mental faculty is the same, and the kind of emotions or the feelings that we feel, I feel as a layman that has remained the same. Yes, it is affected by the surroundings and the kind of environment we get. So herein, with the changes in the society, we are finding that at times children are feeling quite stressed. They are feeling void within themselves, and they need some kind of help. And this is also echoed in a way by the survey that we recently had in this country. For the first time, there was a mental health survey. There we could know that what is the perception of children about their self, and the perception about many other factors and aspects related to mental health and well-being. So we feel that children as the first level counselor, or children as a first level I would say a teacher as a first level friend to the students in all these kind of changes when children are feeling or they are undergoing with is very important. And this conference must have dwelled upon all these aspects, and the participants must have interacted well on what future course of action or what pathways could be best suited to the situation in the country. So this is a very important conference, and today when we are towards the end of the conference, I feel that the kind of deliberations and discussions that must have taken place here will would be carried further in the mind of the participants, and surely they would be contemplating, thinking about further course of action, or at least the kind of variation in the nature of this problem across different regions in the country can be viewed within their local context, and they will in future take the due course of action. So as NCERT, we will be benefited by the discussions or contemplation that has taken place here, and the organizers must be making some report, and that will also be helpful in our exercise for enacting curriculum framework in some manner, or even further coming out with teachers manual or guidelines for the benefit of children in country. So with these words, I again thank you all, and I pay my respect to all the participants and others who are present here in this valedictory section, and I'm very grateful for this occasion. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. The conference deliberated on issues like whole school approach to mental health, teachers as first level counselors, experiential learning sessions, to name a few. Now that the conference is coming to an end, we come together to deliberate on what we have discussed over the 3 days and how we take forward the agenda of empowering teachers for promoting mental health and well-being in schools. I would now request the conference coordinators from NIRI Shillong, Dr. Basansi and Dr. Prachi, to please present the proceedings of the conference for the benefit of all present.
Is present in this valedictory session. I'll just go through a summary of some of the highlights of the sessions that we had during these 3 days. The conference deliberated upon ways and means of empowering teachers for promoting mental health and well-being in schools, recognizing the fact that only happy teachers can lead to happy students and a happy learning environment. That was the basic idea behind this, the whole deliberation that we were doing, and we were trying to figure out ways in which we could do that. We could empower our teachers for making learning a holistic and basically a pleasant experience for all children. We began with laying the basic policy perspectives, which are a background for us coming up to the level of talking about mental health of teachers. So the first session on day one was based on mental health policies and perspectives, where Dr. Sushmita Chakravarti from DEFI NCERT spoke about building a policy perspective on mental health, and she highlighted some of the policies that have been. She was talking about the evolution of the idea of mental health in schools through various commissions. After this session, which was very informative and laid the foundation of our further deliberations upon exactly how we can go about doing this. The second session was on promoting teacher mental health and what the NEP has to say about that. This session was dealt with by Professor Subhash Chandra Roy from NERI. He talked about promoting teacher mental health and NEP 2020 and how the 21st century changes and challenges are being perceived by us and the thrust areas of NEP 2020 and how it lays the foundation for going towards mental health. The salient features of NEP regarding holistic development, which is it is emphasizing the holistic development, how learning cannot be continued in silos, and how we need to integrate all aspects of development and also bringing in the cultural heritage of the country, the cultural echoes of. So Professor Roy talked about some concepts like the Panchamai Kosh, which can be the from where we can borrow ideas for developing the whole self of the child. The third session was by Dr. Shafi Awasthi. She was also talking about certain perspectives on recommendations of NHP 2020 and the way forward from there. The second session was focused on understanding mental health and well-being in schools. Here again, we were talking about the mental health and well-being survey that was undertaken by NCERT, and Dr. Sushnita Chakravarti and Dr. Ruchi Shukla deliberated upon that. They informed the participants that the survey was aimed to gain an understanding of school students on different aspects of mental health and well-being. And the findings were discussed. The findings showed that adaptability, satisfaction with personal life, and satisfaction with school life were relatively high. We generally assume that children do not, they are not happy going to school, but the survey was an eye-opener in some ways, and we got to know that children actually like going to school. A lot of children like going to school. And they also discussed about some of the commonly used strategies that for coping. Like watching TV, ignoring their, denying their feelings, their journaling, and so on. The second session of the day was on teacher mental health as a prerequisite for student well-being, and the idea that was being discussed here was about how we can pour from an empty cup, and that idea was actually reiterated again and again during the conference, that a teacher who does not herself or himself has positive mental health cannot be expected to work for the well-being of the students. So we discussed upon how teacher mental health is a priori to having good well-being for students. The last session of the first day focused on the whole school approach, and we had a lot of stimulating discussions on the importance of taking the whole ecological perspective for making well-being happen. So the first speaker discussed about school preparedness for dealing with mental health issues, and she was talking about some of the experiences that, or some of the practices that were being used by the school for giving the right kind of environment for the teachers. So they talked about the wellness lounge and wellness Wednesdays and things where teachers as well as children get the opportunity to ventilate their feelings, to share their feelings. There was another strategy that was very interesting where they talked about each child telling their story on a particular day of the week. So with that, we went to the next session where the whole school approach to mental health and well-being was seen as based on the relationship of the child with himself and with the immediate context around him, the relationships that exist teachers, between teachers, among teachers, between teachers and students, and between all members of the school system. So we were talking about not the child in isolation, we were talking about the child in context. So the child being a part of the larger ecology of the school and the society and the community, and how oriented the whole school approach is. The third session also was focusing basically on teacher being one aspect of the whole school approach, where we were talking about the teacher being an integral component of the whole school approach, and how it is important for she is one of the spokes in the wheel of schooling and education. So the whole enterprise of education will not be able to move ahead when the teacher is not given the due emphasis and the focus for well-being and mental health. The day two started with a theme on we came to the crux of the conference with day two, with teacher empowerment for promoting mental health in schools, and we started with a session. The first session was on professional development of teachers for all, for holistic development of students, and again a lot of programs that have been launched earlier and that have been emphasizing the need for education that is holistic were discussed, and we talked about when can we say that a person is mentally healthy, and some qualities of a mentally healthy person were identified as being an adaptable and resilient person and having social adequacy and adaptability. The basic needs of the child to remain mentally healthy were discussed as those being organic needs and psychological needs and social needs. And also the problems of children that teachers often come across in school were discussed, and how training teachers can be trained to adopt strategies for promoting mental health of students. Uh, these were some of the trust areas. The second session discussed teacher training as a tool for addressing mental health concerns in schools. And this focus, we began with a few facts about the status of mental health and illness in children. Some of the challenges that students in schools are facing were discussed, and how teachers could be prepared in dealing with mental health related issues, and some strategies were discussed, which included listening to children's concerns, reviewing the progress of students, watching out for warning signs in child's behavior, encouraging social time among students, talking to parents, and basically again taking a holistic approach that all those who are responsible for the child's mental health should be in the loop, as well as everyone who's around the child does have an impact on the child. So that was the basic thrust of these sessions. Um, uh, we also, because we thought that the conference should not just be an academic exercise, and we wanted to get real first-hand experiences of practitioners in the field and people who are actually experiencing things. We had a session on experiences from the schools where teachers from some schools shared the challenges and opportunities that they face when they are trying to work for the well-being of students. And so we had teachers representing schools from Delhi, from the Army School in Shillong, and um, and we also had a talk from the perspective of inclusion on some of the challenges that are experienced by teachers working in the inclusive setup, and how also the inclusive setup can be a big opportunity. And a lot of researchers say that the taking care of a person with special needs can be a very liberating and liberating experience, can also be a very meaningful experience. So it's not always, so the thrust that was there from the session was that it's not always, we cannot always talk about challenges or difficulties when we are talking about mental health issues and also inclusion. It could also be an opportunity for our own personal self growth and development. The second session of the day was focused on role of teachers in students' mental health, and we started off with with the first talk, which focused on teacher as a first level counselor. And through this theme we had actually proposed because of our experience when during our guidance and counseling programs, where we got to know of teachers being in a situation where they were dealing with emotional problems, and especially from schools like JNVs, which are residential schools. The house master is actually, I feel, someone like a full-time counselor. So for that reason, and this the whole idea of the guidance and counseling program that we have is that of a teacher educator, so of a teacher counselor, and we are moving towards the idea of teacher as a reflective practitioner, just not just a person who's imparting information. So with that idea, we had proposed this scheme, and it was a very enriching talk that we got about how the teacher can be the first line of defense in emotional problems. So that teacher is the person the child generally approaches. The teacher is the person who has access to the child, and the child is also having access to the teacher. So the access is two-way. And we also during this session talked about the teacher-taught relationship being a therapeutic one, and borrowing from some of the Indian philosophical texts and ideas, how the age-old idea of the Guru Shishya Parampara has been used. The key elements of the Guru Shishya relationship have been used as a therapeutic model. Also, when we talk about the Guru Chela counseling model in psychotherapy, and it has been accepted across the world. And we talked about how the student child teacher taught relationship is very much similar to the client therapist relationship, and how things like the safety, empathy, and consistency of the relationship are important for the development of well-being, and for the child to feel secure and willing to relate to the teacher. And also that while we are talking about teacher as a first level counselor, another important thing that came up here was that talking to the teacher is very much less stigmatizing than going to a counselor for help. So it is it's a culturally sanctioned way of asking for help, because teacher has been given that status of being responsible for the entire well-being of the child. So we emphasized on these points in this session. Uh, the third session on the second day was focused on understanding sustainable mental health care of teachers and reflections in school education. Okay, I will just wind up in 2-3 minutes because there was so much discussed that so again in this session we talked about different traditional philosophies ranging from the Indian Hindu philosophy to the Buddhist philosophy. We were talking about several which we can call cultural ideas, and it was actually a build-up to the third day sessions where we were focusing specifically on the socio-cultural perspectives on mental health. But in this session, it was a very, very informative, very well-rounded session on some specific tips on how teachers can keep themselves mentally healthy, how they can work for their own well-being also. Then again, we had some sharing of experiences on best practices for promoting mental health in schools, where teachers and principals representing various school systems, the ICSE, the JNV, and the state board were discussed, and this whole day actually focused on the role of teacher as the first level counselor. And coming to the last day, again, because from day one we have been talking, we got a few insights on the importance of some of the cultural ideas. This linked the inaugural session to the third day sessions, where we were talking about Indian socio-cultural perspectives and culturally relevant practices for enhancing mental health and well-being, where some practices which are actually being implemented in the schools were also discussed. The second session of the third day was an experiential learning session on the role of art, movement, and play therapy in mental well-being. And the last session was focused on, that was not actually the last session, but ended up to be the last session. So the third session was devoted to building an understanding of substance abuse, again because we were hoping for this conference to actually benefit teachers, and that they take home something that they can really do in their schools. We focused on this substance abuse because it is an emerging problem in the Northeast as well as in the entire country. All schools have been talking about the rise of cases of substance abuse amongst their students. So we had this whole workshop on managing substance abuse in schools. That was the last thing that we did, and that is all. I think overall it was a learning experience for all of us present here, and hope it will remain with all the participants and they will be able to make use of it in their schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Prachi, for a detailed update on the conference. Listening to participants from varied backgrounds and experiences has enriched us all. Based on the discourse of these 3 days, there are insights drawn, and that would pave the way and guide the work in this direction. I request in charge Manodarpan Cell NCERT, Professor Anjum Sabia ma'am, to share the recommendations.
Good evening to everyone. At the outset, I would like to thank Miri for sharing the proceedings on daily basis so that we could, come out with some actionables. In very brief, I would like to say that the work taken under the initiative of Manodarpan, under the Manodarpan initiative, Ministry of Education, we work for mental health and well-being in schools, which is a preventive approach. We work in a manner that teachers' role is both proactive as well as protective. Keeping this in mind, some of the actionables and takeaways from the conference are, firstly, strengthening and efforts need to be made towards advocacy. Some of the points for enhancing advocacy is that we could suggest the schools to share or display the Manodarpan webpage of Ministry of Education on their web page, so that all the resource material which is there on the website of ministry can be shared with the schools and all stakeholders of the school. Second is that the toll-free helpline number wherein the counselors provide counseling, that should be displayed on the school website or on the school notice board, both digitally or physically, depending on what the school has. And this would be very important because schools do not have counselors, and children who want to seek support, they can call on this helpline number. The third, as has also been mentioned very aptly by Dr. Prachi, is the wellness centers. We need to work towards establishing wellness centers in school complexes. The counselor's room in school has become more like a taboo, that okay, the one who goes there has a problem. So we should kind of think of a different nomenclature, and wellness centers, wellness places are those places where counseling and help can be given, guidance can be given to the students. And if all schools cannot have this, then at least the school complexes should have these with the trained counselors. So this is the first aspect on awareness and advocacy. The second is that teachers' capacities need to be built, knowledge as well as skills. So towards this, it is important that we prepare them as first level counselors. And towards this, we hold Sehog and Paricharcha sessions, which are telecast through NCERT and CIT channels. And on these, we have experts from the area where they share knowledge and know-how on the skills and on the strategies which they can use with their students. This is going on for last 2 years. But besides this, I think it's important that we plan teacher training programs, especially on mental health and well-being. That is something which could be one more actionable, keeping in view the need to position mental health in schools and with teachers. The other is special programs on mental health and well-being on identified areas. Like in the conference, substance abuse was an identified areas, depending on the regional needs, depending on the needs of the area. Others, something like handling anxiety, bullying, absenteeism, and so on. These kind of programs could be, short-term programs could be organized for the teachers. It is also important that teachers identify, the issues and concerns of students. A handbook has already is in place and is on the ministry website. It is important that some kind of orientation and training, keeps happening for all the schools, so that teachers can become aware on what are the indicators for early identification. This would help in timely intervention. So this was about building teachers' capacities. The third is, it is not only important that we understand students' mental health and well-being issues and concerns, which have been, very prominently reflected in the mental health survey of students. It is also important that we understand that teachers too are beings in the school who could also have issues and problems. And right from day one in August, happy teachers lead to happy students. So it's important that we make our teachers happy and we understand what are the issues and concerns, what are the challenges they face in school, and what are their expectations from the system. And we could provide some interventions, we could take some proactive and preventive measures so that they have sound mental health. So some kind of status and data we would need on this. And this is another actionable, maybe a survey. Ma'am Jackson has been telling us to have a survey. So maybe in the next couple of months, we could come out with a very robust tool and have this survey. coming in to the last point is that it is important that mental health is positioned in a formal manner in teacher education, both at pre-service level and in service. That means teacher education curriculum once has this, automatically the teacher training would incorporate and would implement this when the programs are held. Also important is that school education curriculum across stages has mental health components integrated, and we are already working towards this. FLN framework which has come already includes this, and the others would definitely include these aspects. So these are the four broad actionables, and I would just like to end with that the whole approach to mental health is the whole school approach. I mean, the holistic development of the child can only be possible if a whole school approach, that is right from the administrator to the support staff, they all are equipped to handle their own mental health, and in turn would lead to supporting the mental health of students. So our approach should be to take this, make inroads at all levels. And towards this, sensitization of administrators, teachers, parents, support staff is something we would have to work towards. So these are the actionables which were called out from the 3-day conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. The Ministry of Education visualized and on war footing launched the Manodarpan initiative in the thick of the pandemic in July 2020. Manodarpan has shouldered responsibilities towards the different stakeholders in education in difficult times. It has been sensitive to the needs and demands of the circumstance, trying its best to bring positive change. The ministry is continuously planning and making possible ways of attending to the mental health needs of the education system. Manodarpan Chairperson, respected Additional Secretary Institutions, School Education and Literacy, Ministry of Education, Ms. Ellis Changson is here with us. I invite ma'am to give her special remarks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And very good evening to all of you, those who are at NCERT headquarters, Joint Director Professor Sridhar Srivastavji, in charge of Manodarpan Cell and Dean Academics, Professor Anjum Sibiachi, Professor and all faculty members, principal and faculty members of NERI, and all the participants of the workshops, the panelists, and the presenters. I'm very delighted that you could have this workshop, and I'm sure this 3-day workshop has been a very enlightening and enriching experience for all of us. Certainly for me, even hearing the wrap-up presentation, which was done a short while ago, and hearing Professor Sibiaji's concluding recommendations, I think, yes, I do believe, are on the right track. As we discussed during the inaugural session, so far, first of all, this area, mental health and well-being for school students, which had not got the attention that it deserved in the years before. One good outcome of the pandemic was that, now this is, we have brought this into spotlight, and here we are all discussing this and putting all the best of academic and practitioners' heads together and minds together and discussing this. And then again, we had discussed that moving on, no doubt there's a lot to be done amongst the students, but moving on, we have realized how important it is to have teachers who are fully aware and who are fully sensitized to the mental health and well-being issue. And also at the same time, we have expressed a lot of concern about the pressures and stresses which the teachers themselves could be facing and the kind of psychosocial support that they would need. So, all in all, I think this conference has been a very good beginning to look at the issue of mental health, mental wellness in the school system. As you all said, the whole school approach, starting from the premise that happy student, happy teacher, happy student. And that's the way we would approach this whole system. I think that from moving from students to teachers, we would perhaps also need to talk about, to confer about the other two pillars, one, the parents, and the other, the school administrators, that is, education administrators and the school management too. Because I think all of this, when you talk of the school ecosystem, then the community, the society, everything all works together, and this approach would be needed. Now, coming back to the conference and the various topics which you have covered, I think they were very relevant, very worthwhile. And though I could not listen in to the technical sessions in detail, on the first day, of course, I heard out most of it, the different sessions during the day. And I think everybody had put in a lot of research and application of mind when you came to this conference and presented your thoughts on it. These are going to be very beneficial because I always believe that we do not hold conferences or meetings or seminars just for the sake of fulfilling one more, ticking off one more item on the list that this year we held this workshop, this seminar, this conference, but rather the outcome of it should be tangible. It should feed always back into our policies and programs. What we have discussed in the ministry is that we need to take this in a structured way, in an institutionalized way, down to the teachers, the empowerment of teachers, and their sensitization and orientation to put it, as you said, be the first line of defense for emotional problems, or the first level counselors who can handle with existing or even potential emotional or mental health issues that could come up. I think we are considering to have this structured into the Nishtha program. I'm sure all of you are aware of this integrated teacher training program that we do, the Nishtha, and mental health and mental wellness is one of the topics which we would like to take up in one of the coming rounds of Nishtha very soon. So I would also be requesting all of you to give your inputs on this, and we start preparing a module. Professor Anjum Sibia and her team and the rest of all the experts who are involved with the Manodarpan Working Group and with the NCERT and the different agencies who are involved in this today, the different autonomous bodies, our central government, KVS systems, NBS, CBSE, all those who are involved in this to start preparing a module which can be shared in master trainers and then to the state resource groups and downwards onto the teachers, so that in a short but structured way we can communicate this whole message, this very, very important and significant message of mental wellness in the entire school ecosystem. So that is one practical action point which I feel would come out of discussion like this in a very elaborate 3-day conference. And secondly, as was mentioned, I think it is very important now to hold this mental health survey for teachers and staff in the schools, the functionaries in the schools, because their thoughts and their approach to this also would throw a lot of light into what kind of approach that we would take. Um, we there is a common sense idea, no doubt. You know, when we talk about how students are likely to be feeling, or how is their emotional status, how is their emotional mental health. Similarly, teachers, I think we would be also thinking that, yeah, because they are the ones who are leading, who are molding and shaping our children, they are the ones who will be very strong and very stable. But I have been saying this, when we talk about mental health, first of all, I think we all need to recognize and accept that everybody in this whole education system, we are human, and everybody will have their strengths, no doubt, but also weaknesses and challenges and stresses. So a teacher also should not be seen as an eternally, always strong, and nothing can touch him or her. Sometimes they may also need an outlet, they may also need a voice to speak, someone to share with. So, this kind of environment, which will ensure the wellness of the teachers, is also very important to bring into the school system. So, they're first to begin with a mental health survey for the teachers and the school functionaries, and then in what way we can help to improve the environment for them, as in terms of policy, in terms of program. I think that would be a very good outcome of a conference like this. Other things which you have mentioned as part of the recommendations, yes, I think they are all very doable, very good ideas. Yes, short-term special programs on identified areas, and sharing of our helpline after the pandemic. During the pandemic, in fact, we had a lot of calls, but by and by, the calls also have reduced to a large extent. Maybe it is time that we again share this with all our schools, put this up prominently, so that at every stage in life, not just during a pandemic, now exams are around the corner, or otherwise also, there may always be a need for someone to talk to, someone to reach out to, and the helpline is there. We need to use it to be able to help more and more people. It's not just for students. Again, that is also for teachers. It is also even for family, for parents, and for others. So with these, I feel that we continue to progress on this path. We've done a very good body of work in the last 2.5 years. I am expecting and encouraging that more such programs can be held, and we can approach this and make this entire subject, mental health and wellness in the school system, part of the mainstream discussions. And it should form, we should remove this whole idea of this, that stigma or taboo attached to the concept of mental health. We have talked in earlier discussions about approaching it from the mental wellness point of view, and I'm very glad that we are adopting this mental wellness aspect. It is a more positive way, definitely, to approach it, and more constructive way also, I feel. So I laud and commend all of you who have been working very hard for taking this issue forward. I want to thank all of you, NCERT at the headquarters and the NERI team, and all the others who have participated in this conference. On behalf of the ministry, on behalf of the Department of School Education, I thank you all, I congratulate you all, and I wish you all the very best. And in case we do not have this kind of meeting again before the new year, so season's greetings and a happy new year also in advance to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. On behalf of all present, I would like to congratulate and wish you also a very happy new year. May the year bring lots of soothing memories. To take the evening forward, I now invite the principal in charge, Niri Shillong, Professor Floret G. Dakar, to please propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Ruchi. No event comes together without the support of a vast network of people. So also, it is true with the 3-day National Conference on empowering teachers for promoting mental health and well-being in schools. We would not have been here without the initiative of the School Education and Literacy, Ministry of Education, Government of India, and also without the support and guidance from our National Council of Educational Research and Training, NCERT, New Delhi, and yes, not forgetting our institute, the Northeast Regional Institute of Education, Shillong. On behalf of the organizing committee, I first of all would like to sincerely thank our respected ma'am, L.S. Chansal. Thank you so much, ma'am. You have always been with us in all our endeavors, and especially in guiding and motivating us every step to take forward the learning of our children across the country. Respected ma'am.
So, imagine a very relaxed.
Respected ma'am, your leadership, active involvement, your patience, maybe at times, especially for this conference, has made it a great success, as reflected from the feedback that we received from the teachers. Thank you so much, ma'am. And we would also like to tell you that we are inspired to take forward the Manu Darpan to reach out and support every child in this country. To our respected Professor Dinesh Prasad Saklani, sir, you are a beacon of light, leading us from one milestone to another, supporting, helping, and inspiring us to complete the task, no matter what, and also guiding us to be problem solvers and be the leading examples to take up school education and teacher education in the country. To Professor S. Srivastava, our Joint Director, thank you so much, sir, for always being there for us, supporting and guiding us in the right direction. I sincerely thank you. To our dear Professor Anjum Sivya ma'am, and along with Dr. Prachi and Dr. Vasansi, we take this time to thank you. And we also would like to tell you how grateful we are to you. We are for your quality guidance, always foreseeing our needs and ready with guidance and suggestions to solve any issue that may come up, and which has always been accompanied by a strong, deep, emotional support. Thank you so much, ma'am. This conference would not have been successful without the contribution of 29 resource persons. We are so grateful to each one of you, and because of you, the conference has been a success. We would also like to mention the contributions made by Ms. Y. Sherpa, IRS Member Secretary, NCTE, during the inaugural session, and also to Professor R.C. Tripathi for giving us the keynote address during the inaugural session. A big thank you, therefore, goes not only to the resource persons, but also to all the chairpersons. And we know that the time that you spend will never go in vain, because definitely a seed has been sown, and in due time it will grow and blossom, and our children, they will eat its fruit. My gratitude at this time, it also goes to all the teachers who have participated in this conference. We also hope that your precious time that you have given to us, maybe being here offline with us or attending the conference online, it will be an opportunity for all of you to grow as a person first and as a professional worker. I repeat my mantra that we aspire to be the change bearers we so need in realizing the new education policy for the good and betterment of our learners. I thank all the teachers again, and I hope that we will go back and that we will reflect on this. My sincere thanks and appreciation also goes to the technical team of CIT NCERT for hosting the live and also having the live streaming sessions for this conference through all these 3 days. Thank you. And this very big thank you, it also goes to Professor Amarendra Behera, who has always been a constant support and cooperation. My thank also goes to the ICT and the studio staff here at NCERT. We remember and also thank Professor P.K. Mishra, Head of the Department of Educational Psychology and Foundations of Education, NCERT, and our colleagues, especially Dr. Ruchi and Dr. Sushmita. Thank you so much. And I know that we will miss the time of chatting, the time of messaging that went through the past few days. I also wish to thank all the principals, all the faculty from NIE, from the regional institutes of education, and especially our very senior faculty here at NCERT who have been there with us right from the beginning to the end. Thank you so much. We are grateful to all those who have joined, both offline and online. And for this, I therefore thank each one of you. But before I conclude, my gratitude and my thanks goes to Dr. Prachi and to Dr. Basalsi. I know that together we had gone through rough times also in preparing this conference and also the happy times. But nevertheless, we are happy now because we know that the conference has been a success. But let me share what we regret. And what we regret is that we could not meet here together in NCERT. And we hope that the future programs that we have will be here and our doors are open to each one of you. So with this, I conclude and I thank each one of you once again. And if I have missed anyone, I apologize for that. And may we go back, first of all, to be happy people and bringing the change first so that the others also will follow the line. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for a warm vote of thanks, ma'am. May I now request all present to please rise for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे